well, I shouldn't be here. I'm an imposter. I don't belong here. Yeah, but you know what? That's baloney. That doesn't make sense. And we do this crazy eight kind of thing internally, and it's the resistance dance. It's like we're constantly pushing against ourselves. And then we notice, and if we can stop in that moment, notice the resistance, but then also notice how it feels so personal. It feels like, oh my gosh, this is my story. This is how I've always done things. It feels really personal. And then we have that, it's like there's like a shift. And you'll notice I get really animated about this because it's just so, to me, it is a magic that you can create for yourself, and noticing the story in the moment, being present with it, noticing the resistance, notice the dance that we're going through, noticing, you know what, how does that feel personal? And then for me, and it doesn't have to happen, but it's an exhale.
Welcome to the MINDTRX Podcast, where we explore breakthrough ideas on how to live your best life possible. I'm Paul Scheele, and today we'll be joined by executive coach and transformational facilitator Judi Glova for a powerful conversation on what it means to lead from the inside out. Judi shares her journey from corporate leadership to answering a deeper calling and introduces her Core 4 framework: clarity, ownership, resilience, and elevation as the keys to unlocking inner alignment and unstoppable confidence. We dive deep into intuition as a leadership tool, explore the life-changing practices of the Sedona Method and Brainspotting, and unpack how releasing old stories can create a space for authentic growth. If you've ever felt stuck, over-responsible, or out of sync with your inner knowing, this episode will guide you back to your power. Hello, Judi. Welcome to the MINDTRX Podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome aboard.
Oh, thank you, Paul, for having me. This is an honor. Thank you.
Well, your life's work is in the wheelhouse that I've been engaged in for a long time now: leadership and change, and the idea of intuition and using that as a part of how we move through life. So excited to have our conversation. So let's get into it a little bit for our audiences, to let them know, as an executive yourself, you made a move into working with leaders and leadership development and how to lead from the inside out. How did you make that transition from being in the corporate world to being a coach and mentor to others in it?
Sure. Well, folks, first off, I want to mention that, for everybody listening, that we are all leaders. We are leaders of our lives, which is the most important thing. And we're leaders in terms of our goal line, which is our career, as well as our soul line, how we are connected to spirit, how we're connected to our own inner knowing. And part of my transition was when I was in the corporate world. I actually had the benefit of attending a leadership workshop where I met an amazing mentor who really, told me, you know what, this is possible for you to make that transition. So I actually loved being in the corporate world. It's just that this other calling that I had was for transformation of others and really helping make a bigger impact in the world.
I love that idea that there was a calling. Was there a sense, sometimes people receive that call, but they don't heed the call, they discount themselves from it. And I heard this great phrase, God doesn't call the qualified, God qualifies the called. So if you're called, even if you don't think you're up to it, if you heed the call, you'll discover how much assistance you have on the way. So how did you know that was a call? I mean, you loved where you were.
Yeah, it literally was an intuitive hit. I was just like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. And I didn't even know that that type of work existed. And the depth and the level of transformation that happened during that leadership training for me was something that, again, it just drew me to it. And I have to say the story of how it unfolded, like literally all the stars aligned and for that opportunity and that those doors to open for me. So it's like I just knew I was on my path. It was that
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
What I love about what you're saying, my doctoral research talked about that critical incident of transformation.
Mm.
And part of the descriptor of it is that everything fit together and clicked. And
Yep.
there is a kinesthetic and there's an auditory, and in that there is this knowing. This covers everything that is at the
Yes.
heart of my work, and it makes it easier to proceed.
Yes, and I would say every other major shift, transformation that has happened in my growth and in my learning also has had that. So interestingly enough, learning the Sedona method also life changing for me. Even learning about brain spotting, again, another like life changing transformation for me. So I consider myself a lifelong learner. I'm always doing that because it benefits not only myself, but also, everybody that works with me. And I see that as, when I know that I'm drawn towards a specific modality or specific technique and it opens up my eyes, it just makes me want to, provide that to the people that I'm working with.
Totally with you on it. Lifelong learner. I mean, the name of the
Yeah.
company, Learning Strategies Corporation, now over 44 years old. So why do you think? I mean, if you look at the populations that you've worked with over the years, why is it that so many high achieving people feel stuck or disconnected? I mean, I get this idea of the soul line and the goal line, but so many people are focused just on getting to that next goal.
Mhm.
What's causing that
Yeah.
disconnect?
So the number one thing that I notice with the people that I work with, it's not their problem isn't success. Their problem is over responsibility. They feel like everything is on their shoulders. They have this sense of I have to do. And I always love that the saying of, be, do, have, or have, be, do. It's like, how are you being so that you can have and do things and bring those to you. So a lot of people have that recipe kind of out of balance and it kind of gets us off track of the goal line and the soul line. And we get so focused on the goal line that we don't take time for the soul line.
Well, and one of the big mistakes that our culture inculcates us with is this idea that you're going to get that fulfillment if you do your life correctly. So it's always doing to be rather than start at a place of being. And then all of your doing is so much more filled with ease and grace. And that concept of alignment, which I believe you speak to, right?
Yeah, I do. Yep. The core four is what I've learned over my 21 years of coaching and training. These four elements are what get that inner alignment. So it's our clarity. How clear are we in terms of what we want? Ownership, owning who we are, owning our strengths, what I call our superpowers, as well as our kryptonite, the things that are getting in our way, as well as our strengths. Our resilience, like how can we build that sense of, being in and out of doingness and being more in the beingness? And then elevate. Elevate is all about, really clicking those switches so that we can let go of what's no longer serving us, focus on those things that are going to expand us into the place where we want to be, and clear those blocks. So that, we can be unstoppable because I truly believe that when we have inner alignment, we are truly unstoppable.
Okay, so we'll break down those four a little bit more for our listeners so
Mhm.
that there is an understanding of how immediately these concepts can make a difference in our lives right now today. I would like to talk a bit before we get to the core four about intuition. Um, my clients often want to know, how can they reliably access it? How can they trust that an intuitive hit that they're having really is a spark of wisdom and not just a desire that they're trying to pursue? So could you talk a bit about intuition? I believe we're all born absolutely naturally intuitive. So what is the way you bring that to folks?
Oh, wow. I absolutely want to double down on that. We are truly born into it. And for me personally, when I was growing up, people were kind of suppressing my intuition and telling me, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." And, like as a little kid, I would notice things. And what I think we have to do is really take the time to notice. And I think one of the simple exercises that I recommend is, on a day-to-day basis, if you really want to build your intuition, is notice all those times that you don't listen to it. Yeah, first start
My
with that.
did my colleague Win Wenger in the Genius Code, we talk about these side bands of consciousness because our intuition is coming in through the periphery of our awareness, not necessarily front and center. And
Mhm.
so it comes in from that deeper reservoir of our inner mind. And when it presents itself, it's easy to marginalize it, it's easy to brush it off.
So
And
much.
so Dr. Wenger said, always carry a little piece of paper that you can make a note of it. In whatever way you start to respect the communication that's coming, then the channels start to open up and make it more available. So, how do you define what intuition is when someone
Um,
asks?
To me, the intuition, it can actually be different for different people. Some people hear it. Some people have a somatic resonance. And some people have like a mental, message that comes to them. So I think it's really personal, but for me, it's a feeling. It's definitely a resonance in my body. And yeah, it's paying attention to that. And going back to what you said, a practice of meditation helps us be more conscious of what we're feeling. So in having, those notes of noticing when you're not listening to it and what happens, it's like a
Mhm.
daily reflection. Like in your daily meditation, you can actually have a reflection of like, hey, when did I listen to myself? When did that voice come to me? But yeah, sometimes it's a voice, sometimes it's a feeling. And it's knowing your own intuition code. I think that's also really important.
Good. So I want to take that response one step deeper. So, what you're talking about is the manner in which intuition appears. And
Hmm.
the way I always understood it is what comes up into phenomenal representation or conscious awareness is the endpoint of another signal that was pushing there.
Hmm.
So, correct. For me, it might be an image. In the native traditions of the Americas, they went on vision quests. That's where spiritual intelligence came
Hmm.
through. In
Hmm.
the African cultures, it was the rhythm and the sound and the heartbeat and
Sure.
that kind of thing. So it can come through different channels. If I say, for example, today I saw God, you go, okay, Paul. If I say, hey, today I heard the voice of God, you go, okay, cool. Yeah, pretty cool. Or if I say, today I felt the presence of God. And we'd all go, yay, right, we get that. Because in the American culture, our spiritual intelligence comes through in that somatic way, in that felt sense. So it's easy to dismiss it
Hmm.
in our culture, especially if we get a vision or if we hear a voice. It's easy to get that dismissed or marginalized. But what is, I'm referring to a
Yeah.
spiritual intelligence. So what is the communication?
So to me, so let me also mention the fact that, when scientists like to qualify what intuition is, they say that, our brains can process so much information that we're not even aware of. And usually it's like 7 seconds. 7 seconds, we can grok what's happening in our environment to create those intuitive hits. So it is an ability for us to tap into that inner knowing. It's our inner state, our inner being of understanding what the situation is presenting to us and whether or not it's a resonance and whether it connects. At least for
Okay,
me, that's my experience of, am I in an experience that connects with me or is not in alignment?
perfect. Yeah, the way that Dr. Winger liked to talk about it, and we refer to this in the Genius Code, is that the database of the non-conscious, everything that's below the threshold of our conscious awareness, is 10 billion to one what we have consciously. So tapping into that inner reservoir, there's all kinds of wisdom, knowledge, insight, experience that may have been lost to our conscious mind, but it's very much there to inform us as we proceed. So given all of that, you referred to what's called intuitive leadership. So what does that
Mm.
mean?
So, in looking at the core four, that clarity is being able to listen to that, and be able to have the confidence in ourselves. So, it's the ownership, it's owning our own confidence to trust that inner knowing, trust our intuition, and be able to make conscious decisions based on that. A lot of some of the, well, I should say, a lot of the research that I do is about leaders that have made really powerful decisions. So in doing interviews with some of the most successful leaders, I'm like, "Hey, how do you make decisions?" And they're like, "You know what? 80% of the time, it's actually an intuitive decision more than it is a logical decision." So, yes, will they look at the numbers? Will they look at, all of their past experience? Of course, that's important information, but it is also the intuitive nature. It's the combination of all of those pieces of information, which, in business, a lot of people are like, well, if it doesn't logically make sense, how are we going to make this decision? Well, some of the best leaders in the world, I hate to tell them, but actually they do it in an intuitive way. They really have, they connect and they have a confidence within that intuitive knowing. So, that's
Yeah, that's beautiful. So your experience really does map across a lot of other research that has shown that
Mhm.
very often when a leader does make a decision, it's highly intuitive, but what they'll then do is they'll build a logical case around it so that it's more acceptable as opposed to, well, I had this dream last night, and in the dream, it told me how to proceed. It's like, yeah, let's not talk about that to the board of directors.
Right. And also in, some of the roles that I played in the corporate world was around executive communications. And part of the way we communicate needs to include facts and data as well as being able to describe the big picture. So, in people that are intuitive, they have a really good sense of being able to explain the big picture, like, hey, here's all the dots and here's all the pieces of information and this is how they weave together. That's great, but you've also got to be able to add the facts and the logic, if this, then that. Otherwise, you're, like you said, people just kind of turn off like, okay, this is too woo-woo for me. So it's how do we communicate to people effectively so that they can hear us, so that what we say actually lands and resonates.
All right, excellent. And I'm all for it. Having written a dissertation, I know exactly, quote your source. Well, I had this idea. No. So let's go to the idea of confidence. You say, if we have clarity and ownership, we get a sense of confidence in the decisions that we're making or the intuitive hits that we're receiving. And I would like to say that probably more than anything else, that's a big stumbling block for most people. Can I truly rely on those inner voices, those inner pictures, those inner feelings? For you, I mean, certainly when you went into the work that you're doing now, that was a no-brainer. This is it. I have arrived for this. I have been spared, right? This is it. But for most folks, I think that they're getting a hint of a direction that they might take to get to where they're going, but
Mhm.
they're uncertain if that nudge or that
Mhm.
next step is really the right one. So, what do you
Right.
do around that?
Or they're actually put in positions that they don't feel like they should be in. And that's called the imposter syndrome. That's a real
Oh, yeah,
popular term of like, oh, I don't even think I should be here. I've been elevated to this level of responsibility and leadership, and like, I don't even think I should be here. So, one of the tools that I mentioned before that really was a game changer for me because, hey, I was also on my path of learning confidence too, right? So, the Sedona Method has been an amazing tool for me. And my mentor, Hale Dwoskin, who wrote the book, The Sedona Method, he talks about the three hooks that, we get stuck as a population. There's 8 billion people on the planet. And, the biggest secret that nobody really likes to notice is the fact that there's these three hooks. We tell ourselves a story and we really believe it. We want to change it, fix it, or do something about it. And we take it personally. So when it comes to not trusting ourselves or not having confidence or this whole imposter syndrome of like, who me, that's a story. That's a story that we tell ourselves that's no longer serving
excellent.
us.
So I want to pause in your statement because I do want to go through all three of these. It's super important. And what I love hearing that is a core message for you is out of everything that I ever learned from Hale, this
Hmm.
triple welcoming was the technique that I wanted to put on a paraliminal recording with him. And he said, "Oh, absolutely, that'd be great." So when I heard that this is the thing that's key for your work, I said,
Yeah.
"Yay, I'm a big fan of this." So the first
Yeah.
idea is here comes a thought or an idea or an impulse, and some emotion is triggered by it. Generally, what we want to do is we want to resist that. We say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with this right now." And
Mhm.
the idea is, could you just welcome it? And what does that do when you recognize that you have a story going on?
So when I think about that, noticing, that ability to pause in the moment, that's like the golden nugget of transformation because true behavior modification doesn't happen until you can stop yourself and recognize the story that you're having. Most people, when they say, oh, yeah, I know I do that. Well, that's great, but can you stop yourself in the moment that you're having that belief and actually welcome it? That's the money shot. That's the
Excellent.
that is the point where true transformation, the door opens because you can welcome it in and you can allow yourself to accept it, all the stories, all the things that are attached to it, all the sayings, people saying things to you, the criticisms, etc. And then welcoming even the resistance, the wanting to change it, fix it, push it away, hold it close. It's like we do this dance. I even call it the crazy eight. It's like, oh yeah, I have this story. Yeah, but I don't want to have this story. Oh yeah, I have this story. Oh, I shouldn't be here. I'm an imposter. I don't belong here. Yeah, but you know what? That's baloney. That doesn't make sense. And we do this crazy eight kind of thing internally, and it's the resistance dance. It's like we're constantly pushing against ourselves. And then we notice, and if we can stop in that moment, notice the resistance, but then also notice how it feels so personal. It feels like, oh my gosh, this is my story. This is how I've always done things. It feels really personal. And then we have that, it's like there's like a shift. And you'll notice I get really animated about this because it's just so, to me, it is a magic that you can create for yourself. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's what I feel the beauty of the Sedona method is. It's a noticing the story in the moment, being present with it, noticing the resistance, notice the dance that we're going through, noticing, you know what, how does that feel personal? And then for me, and it doesn't have to happen, but it's a it's a an exhale, that doesn't have to
Could you, would
happen.
you win? Could you,
Yeah,
would you win?
would you
Yeah.
win? Could you let that go?
Yeah. That's beautiful. The way that Hale loved to describe it is if you have this big sail out to catch what's blowing through, and it's going to create a lot of energy if you just drop the sail and just let it blow through.
Hmm.
Don't put up the resistance or the barriers to it. Just let it come to pass. It came to pass. It came
Yeah.
to pass. But I also think, Judi, and perhaps you do as well, that the reason it has come and the reason it's come at this moment is for our edification, for the opportunity
Hmm.
that our greater wisdom is attempting to give to us. In other words, we're up against that threshold of a
Hmm.
potential change. The
Hmm.
stories all come up. Are you sure you want to do that? And natural resistance to, we have an immunity to change system that's going on. And if we could stand in that moment. So, what I'm hearing also is coming back to an idea you mentioned earlier is a meditation practice. And really, what you've referred to here is a mindful awareness. If we could be embodied, be mindfully aware when something emerges like this is our transformational practice.
Hmm.
So, anytime that we can take a breath,
Hmm.
okay, it's up, take a breath instead of, oh, it's up again. I hate when I do this. I got to get this change. No, just be present. And I love the way
Yeah.
you describe it. If you can do this triple
Triple
welcoming
welcome.
of it, and then could you let it go? Just what would happen if right now you did just let it go? Who would you be in this moment?
Yeah.
Powerful.
And it's also true that even if you say no to any of those things of like,
Mm-hmm.
can you let it go? No. Well, then hold on to it. And what generally happens is even if I try to hold on to it, it literally dissipates on its own. So I think that's also really important. But the other point that I just wanted to mention is we do get in those states of, oh gosh, this is happening to me again. And a lot of times we're going so fast. Um, the type of people that I work with, again, they go to 0 to 100. They're constantly at 100 miles an hour. They're on autopilot. So
Mm.
it's the beingness. How can we be in the beingness even when we're doing? That really is the magic of the Sedona method because, you can be in a state of beingness, letting all of those stories, play and also release and be, or I should say achieving things and doing things in the beingness as opposed to being caught up in all of the machinations or ruminations of the stories that we're telling ourselves.
Excellent. And really, we're talking about creating our lives the way we would choose to live it.
Mhm.
So let's come back to this core four. We've got clarity, we've got ownership.
Mhm.
What you're talking about with the Sedona method is the ability to elevate,
Mhm.
to make a shift in a
Mhm.
direction.
Mhm.
What is the fourth element of the core
So there's
four model?
resilience. So resilience is
Resilience.
also that is also using the Sedona method because we can let go of what is no longer serving us so that we
Got it.
can be more in the beingness. Elevation is what I like to use the brain spotting, which is a somatic experience. It's a guided type of process where we tap into those places in our consciousness that are linked to those states of being that we want to have. So I'll give you
Mm.
an example. So a lot of people that I work with have this feeling of like, oh, they're actually afraid of success. They don't allow themselves to even feel like they can deserve to have it. So let's just say there's someone who's like, you know what? I don't even think I can have that level of success. How could I get to that next level? We tap into that feeling. They've probably had that feeling of, I can do it. I can do it somewhere in their lives. So you can probably remember a time in your life, Paul, right, where you had, maybe it's in your childhood of like, wow, there's that memory, there's that story that I can tell you, Judi, that really was when I was a kid, I felt like I was unstoppable, right? Can you think of something like that right now?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. So as I ask you questions about it, you would start telling me that story, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So chances are there's a spot that your eyes will go to that access that memory. That spot is actually corresponding in your brain. It's like a memory capsule. So as we tap into that brain spot, that actually helps us access that feeling of I'm unstoppable. I can have it. I can do it. That is what we like to develop with brain spotting.
Nice.
It's called an expansion brain spot. And can I tell you, it is, again, it's one of those times in my life where I've been like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is like the thing. Because what people don't realize is that, yes, they can let go of everything that's not serving them, but can they allow themselves to access that feeling of, I can have it?
Nice. Yeah, I've often taught something called physiology of excellence, and I
Mhm.
have them access the state. But
I love that.
because
Yep.
I would love to add this idea that there is a spot that you look at to grab it. I've studied and taught EMDR, which has come up with an unresourceful state, and then wiggle your eyes around that, and it breaks it up. So
Mhm.
to anchor or to really expand into highly resourceful states, we can do the very same thing right now.
So, EMDR is the grandfather of brain spotting. So,
Sounds
brain
like it. Yeah.
spotting actually came out of EMDR. So,
Hmm.
brain spotting can also be used to break through those really tough barriers. I prefer the Sedona method because I just feel like it's something I can teach people that they can do when I'm not there.
Hmm.
Because coaching happens, I can't always be there in the moment, but if they can access and use the Sedona method, but I also, again, help them with brain spotting that they learn their brain spots. What are those access points where they can focus, feel the feeling, and get into and access those greater states of being, greater states of excellence. So yeah, brain spotting, the Sedona method, they work hand in hand. They're very complementary, and used together, they are super powerful.
Yeah, and it seems like in the core four components, each one of them amplifies the other three. And so
Absolutely.
it is kind of a self
Mhm.
generative system. I really like it. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for sharing it.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
And it kind of brings me to a final point, if we have just a couple of more minutes, when we recognize that we're in a story, we're in a habit of doing things that aren't productive. They're self defeating instead of self enhancing. Certainly, if we could be mindfully aware, we can recognize it, we can welcome the story that's behind it, we can make some shifts like that. In the arc of a week, when I realized that I want to be in more resourceful states rather than those habits that aren't working for me,
Mhm.
what would you recommend to your clients as a routine that they might engage in over the course of a week for greater insight, greater confidence, greater ownership, resilience, and elevation of their lives?
Yeah. So for the core four, I probably have skills and tools for each one of those. But I think,
Okay.
for overall, I think it's being able to be, mindful in being in the beingness. And I think for clarity, it's being able to uh, be intentional. Be intentional with what are those core values that you have and working towards those, because our clarity comes from creating our own personal brand, right? Like, what are the values that we want to live by? And noticing, how are we creating that? How are we making sure, how are we being intentional? And in terms of ownership, it comes down to knowing our strengths and also being able to acknowledge and gain more awareness of what is not serving me. So that's also a really important practice, is having a self-reflection each week at the end of the week of saying, what am I working towards? How am I working on those things? And then I think with resilience, it's, how am I letting go? Am I consciously letting go, or am I just on autopilot? Am I continuously in those states of ineffective beingness? How am I being stuck in resistance? And then the elevation is, how am I accessing my greater spots of, or greater opportunities of expansion into those states of being that I want to be in? So am I meditating? Am I exercising? Am I allowing myself somatically to experience more of what I want, as opposed to ruminating in those areas of what I don't want?
Beautiful. And these practices definitely get the alignment internally to be transmitted in the world externally. So it's that inside out leadership. When we start with ourselves, then everything that we're doing comes from a place of fully being in my life. I love it. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
And I would love for, your audience to think about, what is it that they want to achieve on the goal line? What is it that they want to achieve on the soul line? And notice, how much time are you spending on each of those?
Mm-hmm.
It's a paradox. There's no perfect, just like leadership, there's no perfect balance, but it's knowing that that paradox is existing, right? We've got to be able to pay attention to both, because we become very out of balance when we're only focusing on the goal line and we're not focusing on the soul line, our state of beingness. Um,
Yes.
and one of the things that I love to do with people, and it's like a 30-minute phone call, is being able to look at, there's about a list of 40 different questions that we ask, and it's about those states of being that are actually not, they're cognitive distortions. Like, how can we go through a list of those 40 cognitive distortions to notice what's hanging us up the most? And
Oh,
that's a
nice.
great place to start, because most people don't even realize, what are those cognitive distortions? What are those beliefs that we have about ourselves that are running unconsciously? So we bring them into the consciousness, and that 30 minutes of being able to do a quick self-assessment can help the process start so much. It helps in terms of your clarity, it helps in terms of your ownership, your resilience, as well as your elevation. And that's something that's available to, all of your listeners. It's something that's really easy to do.
Excellent. Thanks. The idea of taking all of this to the next level, obviously, everything that you've talked about is immediately applicable. And I just love that. If you were to say, what is a favorite practice that you have to keep yourself on track on a daily basis, what would you say it is?
Well, I think it's two. I tend to listen to the Sedona Method on a regular basis, because I like to release on a regular basis. But I think it's also accessing my expansion brain spots, because that is what helps me access those higher states of um of beingness, that I feel much more centered. I feel that I can communicate more effectively, and I can tap into my inner knowing, my intuition, and being able to trust myself. Because once we have that inner alignment, I truly believe, we are unstoppable.
Agreed. Thank you so much. It was gorgeous being with you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for all that you've shared today.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Judi Glova. To connect with Judi or explore her self-assessment and coaching tools, visit her website at judiglova.com. Now, in the second part of the podcast, it's just you and me. I'll tell you how to use the paraliminal sessions in the MINDTRX app to easily handle any obstacles and move toward the success you want, especially as it relates to Judi's message. If you're new to the relaxing paraliminal audio sessions, they use breakthrough technologies to activate your whole mind in only 20 minutes to help you improve any area of your life. Let's get going. Welcome back. This is the follow-on to our conversation with Judi Glova. And as we examined the various aspects of the work that she's been about, we understood from her that there are some ways of living from the inside out that can make a profound difference. And certainly paraliminal technology has always been designed to put us in touch with resources that are already within us so that we could then live into the world with that greater sense of resourcefulness. So the 5 areas of our conversation match up nicely with some very powerful paraliminals that could assist you in getting the immediate effects of the great ideas that Judi shared with us. So the first area is the idea of elevate, which she spoke about. The second is being able to establish supportive habits. The third is alignment and harmony. The fourth is living from the inside out. And the fifth is success achievement. When she talked about elevate, she referred quite a bit to Sedona Method. And during the conversation, I mentioned that Hale Dwoskin and I, the developer of Sedona Method, created a paraliminal together based on a technique that he teaches called the triple welcoming, exactly that aspect of Sedona Method that Judi likes to share most with her audiences. So the paraliminal title is called Letting Go. Most important, I believe, is this additional idea she brought in that there is a story that we are telling ourselves that is not supportive. And at that moment, if we can recognize it and welcome it and just be there with it, not try to make it go away or do something about it, then what happens is we're going to reclaim more of the truth, the authentic nature of who we really are. So the letting go paraliminal can really help. The second area is this idea of establishing supportive habits. Now, certainly there are habits that get in the way of what we're trying to accomplish. When we can identify one of those, session A in the Break the Habits paraliminal is about looking at those habits that are not so supportive. She mentioned if at the end of the week you could reflect and say, what is it that was going on with me that really isn't supporting me? That would be a great paraliminal. Session B on that paraliminal is about creating a supportive, life-enhancing habit that can assist you in living into the life that you want to create. The 2 sessions taken together really do help us not only break the habits that aren't working, but create habits that will work for us going forward. The third area is on alignment and harmony. She talks about this internal alignment. And Judi is very clear that when we are aligned internally, we become unstoppable in the world. And the one paraliminal that I think gets our interior act together more than any is called self-love, where we're compassionate toward ourselves about whatever it is that's going on. The reason that we may be behaving in a way that isn't supportive, bring it in, connect with it, support ourselves in moving beyond that. Hey, everything you've done up until now has got you to this point. Let's celebrate. Let's really appreciate that. And as we look toward a future that is emerging that we would like to step into, let's bring that wise, higher intelligence, that inner elder within us forward to assist, to coach, and support us in moving, taking that next step. So alignment and harmony, self-love paraliminal. The fourth area is this concept of living from the inside out. We talked a lot about intuition, the value of it, the reference to it, the access and the confidence in it. And intuition amplifier paraliminal is spot on for this. It seemed to me that Judi's approach does hinge on our full access to that greater wisdom that is always within us and guiding us to take an ideal next step. So when we can receive it, recognize it, trust it, and act upon it, we're going to be living from the inside out and become unstoppable. And that's the intuition amplifier. Now, to assist also in what she kept referring to as beingness, this idea instead of being or living as a human being and not a human doing, when we can get out of trying to do our lives and become more fully aligned with our true essential nature and our gifts and our strengths, that's when we're making the most of who we are on a daily basis. And the paraliminal, called self-actualization, is really at the heart of that work. It takes us into a recognition that once our basic needs are met, we're really about living into the fullest expression of who we are. And that's our highest state of being. So for living inside out, it's intuition amplifier and self-actualization. The fifth and final area is the notion of success achievement. Very often we encounter what she referred to as the imposter syndrome, where we're in a position, there's an opportunity to do something, we're either overwhelmed by it or we doubt that we're really worthy enough to take a next step or guide a team or move in that direction. The fearlessness paraliminal gets at that in a beautiful way, because it recognizes that whatever limitation we may be projecting about who we are and what we can do, our sense of identity, when we recognize we can step into our lives fearlessly, we're going to then develop the competencies necessary. I would love to say we can have the confidence to do our lives, but confidence really should come after we're competent. We need to be confident enough to know that we can learn this step, but we're really every day building our competence to live into that greater expression of who we are. So fearlessness, super powerful. And nextly, I believe the creativity supercharger helps us address many of the problem situations that we have to face on a daily basis with access to that greater creative potential that's within us. So for success achievement, I'm suggesting today fearlessness and creativity supercharger. As you know, depending upon what it is you're trying to break through, what you're creating in your life, there may be an ideal paraliminal for you. Use the AI coach on the MINDTRX app, and you're going to be able to get additional guidance that is highly trained by me to make those good recommendations to you. Thanks very much. Great to have you here. Look forward to having you on the next MINDTRX podcast. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me today. I applaud your willingness to maximize your potential. You can easily use the paraliminal audio sessions in the MINDTRX app to stimulate your non-conscious mind, that is your inner mind, to reduce any resistance in your life and propel you toward the success you want. Go to www.mindtrax.com/go. These amazing audio tools have helped millions, and I encourage you to bring them into your life today. Be sure to be back for more episodes of the MINDTRX Podcast. You'll find insightful conversations with authors, experts, and thought leaders, all devoted to improving your life's experience. And if you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Your support helps us keep the momentum of transformation going. Thank you again for being here on our MINDTRX Podcast.